pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to do the roll call. Commissioner Andrews? Here. Commissioner Kalani?
Here.
Commissioner Hubbardson?
Here.
Commissioner Soa?
Here.
And Commissioner McNeil?
Here.
All present. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
There appears to be some minor changes in terms of information, so I would approve the agenda, or move to approve the agenda with the minor changes of information that have been presented to us, and they're sitting on our table.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's been approved. Report from the executive session. So I guess that will be me. We had 2 executive sessions. On June 9th, we continued discussing what to do about the Carver Bridge. And on June 27th, we did a final job review for Mr. Moore, and we had another item that we discussed in pertaining to the PERS package for our Mr. Hyder, the hiker pin, I'm sorry. Is there any public comment? Yes, sir. Oh, we're going to do this now?
No. Do you have the sheet?
I have the sheet here. Are there any public comments from anybody who's in the audience? Okay. In that case, we're going to go right into action item, election of board officers. Do I have any motions for president?
I'll make a motion for Naomi to take over the presidency.
A second?
I'll second.
Are there any other maybe I shouldn't be running it then. I guess it doesn't matter.
No, it's an open vote.
Okay.
You know, somebody has
It's an open
to.
vote.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for president? Are there any other nominations for president? Are there any other nominations for president?
Move the nominations be closed.
Second.
Okay. Do we do that by acclamation then?
I'll move to have you as president by acclamation.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Ask for a vote.
Okay. Then we're going to have, do we have
Yes,
any?
You have to
Yes.
ask
Any
for a vote.
opposed?
Oh, sorry. Anybody opposed?
Apparently it's unanimous.
Okay. Are there any nominations for secretary?
Who would like to be secretary?
Well, I made a commitment to Naomi when I asked her to come on to this board a long time ago that I would make sure she had the support that she needed to function on the board, so I'll serve as secretary if it's a pleasure of the board.
Okay.
Is that a
Okay.
nomination?
Okay, so he's been nominating himself for secretary. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Any other nominations for secretary? Any other nominations? Okay, nominations are closed. So we can elect Commissioner Humberston by acclamation. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Are there any nominations for treasurer? Does anybody have any comments or anything that you'd like to add to this? Okay.
Well, I'll move to nominate Hugh for treasurer.
Second. Are there any other nominations for treasurer, sorry? Any other nominations for treasurer? Any other nominations for treasurer?
We need a second for the nomination.
Oh, I think I said second.
Okay.
Okay, nominations are closed, so we're going to have it by acclamation.
So moved.
So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. I guess elections are closed then. Okay, election of board representatives to the CRWSC board.
I'd be happy to give a staff report if you'd like on that.
Sure.
So real briefly, every year the board is asked to appoint 3 representatives on behalf of the CRW to the CRWSC. The representatives currently include Commissioners Kalani, Ainger, and Humberston. For this next fiscal year, so it'll be CRW's turn to serve in the positions of chair of the CRWSC and also as secretary of the CRWSC. At our last CRWSC board meeting, we got a little ahead of the game where they actually nominated and elected position officers for the organization. So at that point, Commissioner Kalani was asked to serve as chair, and Commissioner Ainger was selected to serve as secretary. And so it would probably be helpful if those 2 continued on the CRWSC. However, we do want to go through this formal process to make sure that
If anybody would prefer taking that over, I have no objection.
Well, I think with this amount of stuff that's going on there, if you don't mind doing it, I think it's important that you already have a good relationship, and I think it's important that we stay on top of that, so.
Is there anybody else that's interested in the position on that board at this time? Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to continue with the same 3 of us on that board.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a second to that?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then we have just other
So
commissioner
do we get 3?
assignments.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I need to confirm votes on that.
Okay,
So we have to
Aye.
have at least 3 affirmative votes
There's 2
Great.
and 3.
to pass something. Okay,
Aye.
thank you.
okay. So we're up to commissioner assignments. And I believe that we were, so here they are. And I know that we don't fill all of them. So far we have Commissioner Humberston is a representative on the Sunrise Water Authority. Do we want any changes to that? Did you want to continue that?
I'd like to continue in my current assignments in both cases, if that's acceptable to the board.
Oh, in the Regional Water Providers Consortium.
Yes.
Is there any? Okay. I have, on the South Fork Water Board, we have David McNeil. You want to continue that?
Yeah.
Okay. On C4, we have Hugh Kalani.
I'll stick with that.
Okay. And then for Clackamas Fire, we have, and a CRW, which is the CRW Interagency Committee, we have Dave McNeil and Larry Solo, so you 2 probably barely started, so we'll continue.
I'll have to say we barely started.
And then the others are, that we have on are staff members, and I'm assuming that they will stay. We have American Water. So Lee Moore is gone, so American Water Works Association.
Yeah, so I obviously will fill in on the positions where Lee is listed. If I may, the Clackamas River Water Providers, I also serve in that capacity as well. And then,
Okay.
let's see, and then just to alert you to a possible opportunity that you may be asked about in the future, although we haven't got the request, is that I was told that the Clackamas River Basin Council has 2 municipal water representatives. One of those folks is planning on leaving. That will leave a vacancy for a municipal representative. And so we have not been asked, but that we may be asked in the future.
Okay. Are there any other committees that anybody has any interest in being on? Or that Todd feels that somebody should be on?
If anybody's interested, I think that the Oak Lodge, both with their transformation going on, now it'd be a good idea to have somebody there. I would go as volunteer for it, but I don't have the time right now. But if there's any interest somewhere.
I'd say my calendar's full this
Yeah, mine is too.
I think being president and being on the other board is all that I can handle, so.
Well, maybe later I can do it.
Todd, do you think that's important that we put that on, or do you think we can kind of ride for that? Is there anything that you think is really important that needs to get filled?
The only one that I mentioned as far as Clackamas for Basin Council, just letting you know that may come up.
Okay.
And we'll track others through agendas and minutes and
Okay.
kind of take place. Watch things that way.
Okay.
So we do with South Fork, but they haven't had any minutes.
Yeah. I do, at least with the water providers, I do try to make contact with our partners in the areas on occasion, so we're not, it's not like there's no contact and we're not watching anything.
Okay, we're up to executive session, and we have 2 action proposals that were related to our last executive session on June 27th. So do I have anybody that would like to do the first motion?
Madam Chairman, I move to approve a merit adjustment in the amount of $30,000 to Lee Moore for fiscal year 2016.
Any second?
Second.
Okay.
Who seconded it? I'm sorry.
You,
Is there any discussion? Any questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
So it's 4 in favor and 1 opposed. Okay, then I have a second motion.
I have a question of the
Yes.
general manager. Do we want to take action on this one, or is this one that we
Yes.
are ready to take action on? Okay, thank you.
As long as you're ready to take action.
Not a problem. Madam Chairman, I move to authorize employer pickup of 6% PERS for the general manager effective retroactively to April 1st, 2016. And I would request that the general manager explain why this is being done, what the consequences were that resulted in this. We need a second.
Second.
There you go.
I'd be happy to. When we entered into my employment contracts, one of the things that there was a question about was the first pickup component of that. My understanding is we're going to be consistent with the way the existing, or the general manager at that time's contract worked. Unfortunately, the contract was a little vague in that point, and so my understanding is this is consistent with the board's understanding, my understanding, but yet I thought it would be good to have it in a public meeting where we clarify it once and for all how we do this.
Will it be amended in your contract so it's clear?
So it'll serve as a motion that will attach to the
So be
contract.
appended to, okay. Just want to make sure that that's done.
Okay, I don't think we voted on it yet. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, it was unanimous. Okay, we're up to agenda number 5. Action item UASI Sub-Recipient Grant Agreement Authorization for Board Approval. Go ahead and,
We need a motion on the floor first.
oh, we need a
Second.
motion on the floor first, okay.
I'll guess I'll go ahead and move on
Okay.
it then. I move to approve the sub-recipient grant agreement between Clackamas River Water and Clackamas County in the amount of $100,000. And then, Dave, you seconded?
Well, as we find out that accepting federal money, there's a number of different steps and a number of different complicating factors. And so what we're talking about here is accessing the Urban Area Security Initiative grant funds. I'm going to call it UASI for short, for the purpose of this evening's presentation. I think what's important to note is we've achieved the first step, which is being awarded these UASI funds for two separate projects that total $100,000. So one's a $60,000 project and one's a $40,000 actually equipment. So tonight, what we're asking the board to do is consider an intergovernmental, a sub-regional grant agreement between Clackamas County and CRW. An obvious question is, what does Clackamas County have to do with this? Well, they are the entity that's responsible. Well, let me back up. Clackamas County is actually part of the Portland urban area jurisdiction that has an agreement in place to comply with the UASI grant purchase process. And so the UASI grants within the county require an entity like us, like CRW, to enter into one of these sub-regional or sub-recipient grant agreements with the county for us to be able to access these funds. So once these sub-recipient grant agreement, the mouthful, is approved by both the CRW board and also the county, then we can move forward with the solicitation as it relates to the communication study and gap analysis. It's going to be initiated. It was the subject of a board work session a while back. Now, it should be noted that since the City of Portland's Bureau of Emergency Management is designated as the UASI grant administrator, that they are actually the ones that will be conducting the procurement process. However, CRW staff will serve as a project manager for that. So it's got into this convoluted that everybody's kind of got their fingers as part of this process. But the good news is our staff will be involved with the implementation of the study and actually before that the purchasing process or the solicitation process. The way we have it set up this evening is that the sub-recipient grant agreement that you're considering will actually cover both grants. So instead of doing one and then coming back at a later date with the second one, we just have it written so that we can kind of get two
Move on
one
to
agreement.
the
So the second piece of this agreement does talk about the variable message system trailers, and included in your packet were some examples. It was pointed out to me that these probably weren't the best examples to include as far as photos, and so I want to be clear that we were just trying to illustrate what these trailers look like. These aren't necessarily diversions that would be purchased. In fact, we haven't even started that process yet to identify the specifications associated with that. So I wanted to offer that clarification and apologize for the confusion there. So with that concludes my report.
Go ahead.
In your presentation, you said county approval. Was that a misstatement?
No, it's a pass-through, it's a convoluted process.
Yeah.
Because I see the city of Portland's involved, but I didn't
No,
see
no,
the
but-
county actually mentioned in here.
Yeah, so the city of Portland is the key person. So this money goes up through the system through OEM to FEMA or to Homeland Security, and then back down to the chain, back through Portland, back to the county, back down to us, then back up to the thing.
So
Yeah.
when you said Portland,
Yeah.
it's just that it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so they require that you use Portland procurement process,
Okay.
right? And it's a pass-through for Clackamas.
I just wasn't sure if you'd misspoken because I didn't see the county in there, so I was going, okay. So, thank you very much.
By the time we're all, that's somebody will be worn out.
Inflation will have eaten it up, right?
I do have another question. the county just passed that bond measure for that upgrading of their emergency radios and other things. So how is this all going to interact with one another? Do you know?
Yeah,
David knows.
so keep in mind, this is a communication study as it relates to more of the water providers.
Right,
Obviously,
okay.
one of the things that we look at is how we communicate with other essential services, fire, police, all of that as well. To be honest, at least my approach is that we're trying to get this information before the county goes farther as part of theirs, so that we kind of have a better idea of what might work for us, and so this is a separate study from what the county is doing.
Are there any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, I got two. So on the DMS signs, both you and I were at the county in the 90s. The county somehow got a couple of these things, and I should say you, promptly sold them to the state immediately, because there's absolutely no place on the county road system that you can use these. You can't put them on shoulders, you cannot put them on sidewalks, you cannot put them in the bike lanes, you cannot put them within 120 feet of an intersection, you can't put them on the state highway without a special permit. And so it was pretty, became pretty evident to us in the transportation department that these were not gonna work, and that the highway department that has really wide shoulders, you get smaller trailers, but the shoulders on the county roads typically aren't more than 6 feet wide.
If that.
If that.
Yeah.
And where do our pipes all go? In the county right of way. We have very little plumbing on the state highway system. Most of the time we cross under it in a pipe. And so from this commissioner's perspective, before we go start buying stuff like this, I'd like to see the board direct staff to talk to us about stuff like this before they go out and do this kind of stuff. Because what I'm worried about is we put these out, we're gonna get sued if somebody gets hit or killed because they can't see around one of these darn signs. Can you imagine putting one out here on this street? You can't even put one on this street legally, but we got a problem. We can't be doing this. I'd much rather have another one of those water purification trailer things, so we'd have one for the north side and one for the south side area, and then we'd really have something. But I don't know, this one drove me nuts. That was why I wanted to talk about pulling this agenda item, but that's it. That's all I got on that. The radio thing, because these are packaged, I'm not sure how any of you can vote on this stuff because we didn't get enough information. You got this? This is all we got? This is it? Now we got some more stuff. He's gonna get me some more stuff on that thing, but I agreed after Todd and I met that I was gonna let it roll. And my issue with the radio thing is, so now we're 12 months past the time that we said we were gonna look at having radios, and I can guarantee you it'll be at least 12 months before this thing gets procured and we get any kind of information. And now it's 24 months. And every month that we pass, chances of getting radio channel are almost slim to none. So you'll get spend $60,000 on a radio study, and you won't be able to do anything because there's no channel, which is exactly what I said a year ago, and it's just gotten worse now. And so we're gonna keep grinding money up and spending time, and guess what? The ratepayers still have no way for this district to communicate if we have a disaster. Nothing. And I think it's wrong. I think we're going the wrong direction, but, they got the money. The other thing that drives me, UASI money isn't free. It's tax dollars. Any way you slice it, it's tax dollars. And so if we piddle this money away, we piddled away $100,000. And so, I think we gotta be smarter than this. So I just wish the staff would talk to us a little bit better, because, we could talk. This is the first thing I've gotten from anybody about what this grant process was about. I have asked Lee repeatedly, tell me about the grant process. Nothing. Tell me about the grant process. Nothing. So here we are, $60,000. The good thing about it, I did find out, is we're going to look at doing communications with as many users in the basin as we can, and that's a good thing. I don't have any trouble with that at all. In fact, that's
That was the point you brought up at the
Yeah.
beginning of this process, is that we needed to communicate with everybody.
Exactly, but to be absolutely clear, I'm not looking for something that's high dollar. I built 3 of these radio systems, 2 for Clackamas County Fire and 1 for the city of Oregon City, for less than $60,000. Less than $60,000. Done. Radios in hand, system up, talking. We're gonna spend $60,000 to take a look. Don't know. We'll talk about it again in a year, and we'll still have nothing.
Hugh, did you have something to say?
Yeah, well, one of the things about anytime you're dealing with government entities, and believe me, that's a problem, things change very quickly. When we first bought those signs, everybody had them. And then all of a sudden, the laws changed. Like he's saying, you can't use them anymore. So we had two expensive
Yeah.
systems.
Oh,
Couldn't use them legally, and where we were able to use them, they were useless. So they got on the sales block, and I think GoDot bought them.
Yeah, it's ODOT headed for them, right?
But just so, you know, recognize that the same thing could happen with this, with the systems, as far as the communication system, emergency system. We could run into the same kinds of things later on down the road. Maybe a little different, but it's something that you have to deal with when you're dealing with government organizations, ourselves included.
I'm gonna bet it'll be 6 months before we get through City of Portland.
Hope not.
I hope not too, I really do. Well, at the rate communication channels are going out the door, the reason I know so much is I just completed an end-to-end communication radio study for Washington County Emergency Management. I interviewed every government entity and every hospital in that county. I know what they have for radio systems, I know what they spent for those radio systems, I know what it costs over recurring costs. The report will be out next week. Anybody who wants a copy, they can get a hold of it from Scott Porter, who's the Director of Emergency Management over there, and I'm currently rewriting their emergency operations plan and the communications annex, and have been working closely with Tualatin Valley Water District, a guy named Neil Kennedy, Scott from Washington County LUT, and Ken Schlegel from Clean Water Services on building a joint system where they're going to share what PVWD did. Those are the kind of things that if we're going to get something, we're going to have to share with somebody. Because the way the channel is going, there just isn't any left. And so, you know, that's why last year at this time I said, you got to go now, you got to go. Because you're not going to be able to get licensed. And I'm afraid by the time we get through this grant, we'll have all these recommendations. You're not going to go, okay, go ahead and file your 601 with the FCC. We'll see what you get coming back. Probably not. And so that's the bad thing. And so we'll see. Like I said, this is the way that the board wanted to go. But I think we're going to be wishing we didn't. Because sooner or later, we're going to need to have radio to communicate with. That's all I got.
It seems to me that there's three basic policy concepts that we should be adhering to. One is, and I recognize that you have a lot on your plate, Todd, besides playing catch-up. We have some big projects, but it's radios that will communicate with every other agency.
Well, what I care about mostly is being able to communicate with the public works folks. All of our water providers in the basement, that's important, I think, because we all have to share the same resource. And then with the public work entities, like Oregon City runs a VHF system, the backup system for Clackamas Fire is a VHF system, the radio system for the county road department is a VHF system. The vast majority of public works entities in the entire tri-county area is VHF. And the reason for that is because it doesn't take very many sites to cover the whole area. It's extremely reliable, and the equipment is inexpensive versus what the county proposed. So the radios that TDWD just purchased for their radio system are $465 for one. The radios, the cheapest version that you can get for the radios that they're going to put on the county system is $4,620 for one. And that does not include your recurring cost every year for every radio you have on the system. This guy doesn't want to incur any recurring costs. I want equipment that we can use every day, know that it's there. If one falls in the river, I don't care, we'll just get another one. But if they drop a $4,600 radio in the river, we're going to have somebody go swimming. You buy a lot of boat time for that. So, I don't know, that's just, you know, that's the difference. The thing that the county's building is what is called a P25 public safety system. And that is the most expensive thing you can buy. There's no other system that you can buy that's more expensive. This baby right here, I don't know what you pay for your phones, but think about it, powering one of these. You only pay, what, $250 for a phone now? And look at this thing, try to take a picture with a public safety radio. try to text on a public safety radio sometimes. Try to do point-to-point connection. That's what's cool about what TVWD did. They went out and got absolutely the latest technology out there. Neil Kennedy did a great job with that system, and they can text on the radios, they can email, if they have phone connect, they can talk on the phone on the thing, so it's amazing. And the reason it's cheap is because you can buy those radios from 11 different vendors, not one. With the county system, we'll be able to buy it from one vendor.
So you're talking about the county system,
Yeah.
if they just pass the bond
Yeah.
up for it.
There'll be
Okay.
one vendor. Yeah. I don't care if you buy that kind of stuff. Like I said, we're going down the path. That's the direction the board decided to go last year, so we're going down the path.
When we foresee the timeline then with this?
So keep in mind, first off, the issue before the board is whether to approve the agreement with Clackamas County.
Right.
So that's one issue. So once they're, assuming you approve it this evening, I believe it's on their agenda for next week
Okay.
for the board, and then that would then allow us to move forward. We do have a draft, proposal document that we're working on as it relates to the communications study that we're still getting feedback from, since we're going through Portland's process, we're getting feedback from them as well. And so that's not in its final draft form yet. But the idea would be, hopefully we move forward with that. My understanding of their procurement process, Commissioner Neal's point is well taken, where it's a 2 or 3 month process before we can get going. But the idea would be that we'd have something early next year.
Okay.
Sooner the better.
I agree.
You need to call the question.
Yes,
I'll call
sir.
the question.
Okay, we're calling the question. Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 No.
No.
Okay, it's 3 ayes and 2 noes. Okay, I'm going to move on to item number 6, recurring payments, approval of recurring payments for existing FY 2015-2016 contracts in excess of general manager's approval and a comparable. Oh, I guess we need to make the motion first.
I move to acknowledge recurring purchases for fiscal year 2016-17 that exceed the $50,000 per the attached list. Second.
So I do have a brief presentation. This basically covers the material that is in the board packet. Page 1 of 3 of the attachments is talking about the annual payments that exceed the $50,000, which is the general manager's approval level. You do recall that the board approved $75,000 for public works projects, but we're still just showing you everything that's over $50,000. So you have that list in your packet. Many of the things on this list are things that we don't specifically have a contract per se. It's payments to PGE, but we're going to pay the bill so that we can keep power to the plant, power to the pump stations as much as possible. It also includes bank fees, water purchases, health insurance, which a portion of that is paid for by the employees and a portion is paid for by the district. The employer paid PERS share, all of those things are included. I've also included debt service in that. We have an obligation, the board approved the debt, but just to keep fresh in everybody's mind, we do have debt service that does exceed that $50,000, and this discussion this evening and this approval of the motion would say, when those come due, we just go ahead and pay them. I believe we also have on there the liability insurance things that we pay annually that are required to keep this operation running. We've also provided, page 2, these are recurring purchases that are greater than $50,000, but these are on specific contracts. And these contracts that exceed $50,000 would have been brought to the board individually as we incurred them. We've just included this list as informational items so that the board can kind of refresh their memory on some of the contracts that we have that are in excess of the $50,000. And then we've also provided a list of recurring purchases that are the $25,000 to $50,000. And these contracts are contracts that we've entered into. Again, they're ordinary operating items, but just as informational items for the board to review. And these contracts would have been signed by the general manager.
Okay. Any public comment, discussion, questions? Yes.
Are all of these recurring purchases, payments and purchase included in the budget
Yes, they are.
at the same level?
We did a 2-year budget and we do apply a little inflationary, but these are things that we don't specifically contract for rates, for example, like PGE. We get estimates from them of what they anticipate the rates to be, and we included that in the budget when we prepared the budget.
If we've already approved them in the budget, why are we wasting time talking about them now?
This is something that we have done on an annual basis, and frankly, it comes from history where we made some payments for things that we felt were budgeted and approved through the budget process, but the board did not specifically approve them, so that's why I bring this list every year. I had negative feedback in the past.
All I can say is why are we doing this?
So is it a policy or practice?
It's a practice.
Thank you.
Call the question.
Any other questions or discussions?
Okay, let's call
Okay,
the question.
we're gonna call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
4 ayes and 1 no. Okay, we're up to action item number 7, resolution 01-2017, adopt investment policy. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I move to adopt Resolution 01-2017, adopting the Clackamas River Water Investment Policy.
Second.
Did you want to present?
Yes, thank you. This is brought to the board annually. This is a policy that is in board policy under the board's purview. It is best practice to review this policy annually. It was last amended last year in July, and the only policy change, or the only change to the policy, is the annual increase by the state on the amount of money that we're allowed to have in the local government investment pool. And so that has increased from 46 million, almost 47, up to just over 47 million. Now, last year when we talked about this, even discussing that maximum amount that we could have seemed a little bit silly because we had about $8 million in the bank. But this year, because of our bond proceeds, we are a lot closer to that amount than one would think. The investment policy does allow for us to invest in other items. We can invest in treasuries, we can invest in certain AAA commercial paper. All of that would take a lot more staff time than just leaving the money in the LGIP. So I did just a little bit of research. Because interest rates have been so low, it's a little bit hard to go out and find those other venues that might provide us with better return. And in our investment policy, our primary thing is safety of the principal at any rate. Then secondarily, we look at return. But the LGIP has gone up to a 0.875% interest on the balances that are in there. 6-month U.S. Treasury is at 0.41, and a 1-year U.S. Treasury is at 0.53. And again, our policy also limits us to short-term investments. We can't go beyond 18 months. So there aren't any U.S. Treasuries, which is, again, another very safe, secure investment, but there aren't any that would bring the same kind of returns that we're getting currently from the local government investment pool. So based on our investment policy, maintaining the security of our funds, and preserving staff time for other more pressing issues, staff has made a determination that this is a pretty good deal for us.
Any questions? Discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Approved unanimously. So we are up to action item 7A. Contract for eyewash stations at the water treatment plant for an NTE $90,000. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move to authorize the general manager to sign a contract for the purchase and installation of upgraded emergency eye wash and shower stations not to exceed $90,000. That was one of our add-ons or greater explanation pieces that were added to the agenda.
Second.
I would request the general manager, for the public's benefit, explain why an eye wash station is $90,000.
It's the shower.
Just for the public's benefit. We have the documents. So.
Thank you, Commissioners. Yeah, this evening, the agenda item, it's before you because it exceeds the general manager's authority as far as approving a contract in this amount, but I do feel the need to give a little bit of background because I had an initial, what do you mean this is $90,000? I think what's important to note here is the reason we're doing this is we had identified a deficiency as it related to some of the safety protection measures for our employees as it relates to availability of an eye wash station and showers in case there was a chemical exposure, for example. And so we had consulted with Oregon OSHA to kind of go through one of their consultation processes to walk us through, what are some of the things we need to be doing to implement best practices. As a result of that report, we did identify the need to upgrade our emergency eye wash and shower stations so that they can meet the current requirements. What we found out through that process is unfortunately it's going to take some structural changes to one of our buildings that holds our chemical storage facility. We need to try to provide some sort of separation or some refuge place from that building, from the chemicals, where you can allow the eye wash and shower activity to occur. And so that's going to require a modification of the building, so it's more than just that. Also, the issue is some of our place as far as the heat control, so you have to make sure that the water temperature is a certain temperature in order to be used for an eye wash station, and so that requires some additional plumbing and heating in order to service those facilities. So it's a lot more involved than just buying the eye wash stations themselves. So
We've gotten soft. Every eye wash station I ever used was cold. That's what I suspected, just upgraded what we got.
Any discussion or questions?
No.
Okay. All in favor? Please say
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
Just a second. So
Yes, go ahead.
is that in the budget?
the eye wash station,
The 90,000?
it's part of our facility improvement, so it's not specifically.
Not specifically budgeted as a capital outlay, but there are some other things that we did include in that category that we have determined that we can postpone,
That's what I thought.
since
Okay.
this is a higher priority.
Are any of those things the emergency preparedness stuff?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I saw that trend coming.
Making sure the switch was.
Well, you never know.
I think with the consent agenda, if it's okay, we can probably make a motion to put together the gross payroll and accounts pay and cash position and transfers. There's usually no discussion, so that could probably just be one motion. Am I correct in that?
So you're asking that we pull out
I was
three?
just thinking you could take CA1 and CA2 and make a motion for both of those.
Well, normally for the consent agenda, you just make a motion for the entire consent agenda.
Oh, well,
Yeah, that's
but there
what I
were
was
two,
thinking.
yeah, we could do that. Okay, we'll just do
But-
a motion for the whole consent agenda.
Unless a member actually requests that an item be removed from the
Okay.
consent agenda.
Well, since we have this, that's fine, we'll do it
Well, and
then.
wasn't Bob gonna talk about 3 and
Right.
4?
That was 3 and 4, that was the only reason I had brought that up.
Okay, well, then let's roll.
Okay, then we'll just do the whole consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're up to the manager's report.
Good evening. So we're on agenda item 8, the general manager's report. One thing I will note is that we did provide a couple additional tables that we indicated on the agenda would be provided the night of the meeting, just because of the time it takes to prepare that information prior to the packet going out. So we'll want to point out that information. The second thing I just want to report on is just some of the regional meetings that attended, and we did a brief report on that. The Regional Water Providers Consortium, at one of the work sessions, you had an update as far as some of the activities associated with that, but I thought it would be appropriate at a board meeting to also just mention that we're in the summer season, so some of the summer messaging has been, you may have noticed it on TV. One of the other things that the Regional Water Providers Consortium is also working on is some emergency preparedness messaging. I'm rather pleased with the fact that they're kind of taking on that effort and trying to create that awareness on how individuals need to also be prepared in case of emergencies and take certain actions to make sure that they have water available if water is not available for a period of time. During our last meeting, there was elections held, and so Tom Lewis of Rockwood Water PUD and Victoria Lowe of Forest Grove were both re-elected to serve as the chair and vice chair respectively. The representative for Clackamas County on the executive committee will be Nancy Gibson with Oak Lodge Water Services, the combined water and sanitary service. And then I thought it was interesting, one of the presentations there was about the difficulties or the challenges of communicating with customers about topics such as lead that aren't easily understood, and it really made me feel good about what we're trying to do here at Clackamas River Water as far as get ahead of the game, working with schools, trying to be someone that can provide assistance, kind of guide folks on, use our technical knowledge to the benefit of the schools. We're in the process of finishing it and work with the schools, and we'll expand that out to the daycares and continue that. Obviously, if any customers have questions as it relates to lead and the quality of their water, we want to be quick to provide them information and materials in order to kind of reassure what it is that we're doing and much of the testing that we're providing. The next item I wanted to just touch on is the Clackamas River Water Providers organized a meeting with PGE and Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife as it relates to the use of Timothy Lake and kind of how the FERC license works and how there's a little bit of stored water that can sometimes be released, but yet all the different conditions that are placed on PG as far as operation. For me, as someone newer to this organization, it was a very enlightening process just to kind of better understand what can and can't be done with that storage with a little bit of water that's stored and a better understanding of the timing of that and how that may or may not benefit water providers. The second thing I just want to note is I did attend the American Water Works Association annual conference. I had a chance to represent the Pacific Northwest section as it relates to the lead discussion and kind of a strategy session that the American Water Works Association held. Again, that further reaffirmed kind of the direction that we're taking as it relates to CRW. While there, I also attended a number of different sessions dealing on a variety of topics from drinking water regulations to asset management, affordability programs, customer or stakeholder relations, identifying service levels for asset management. And so so found it to be a very worthwhile conference in that regard. You all, I believe, were at the CRWSC meeting, so I won't highlight that. And that seemed like that was so long ago. So it's kind of funny to be in this report. And then we did talk at our June 27th work session about kind of some of the activities associated with Oregon City. So I think it's appropriate to point out that staff has had 2 meetings with staff from Oregon City as it relates to the feasibility, the joint engineering study, and the wholesale water agreement that we've been working on. Transitioning from intergovernmental relations, I wanted to kind of highlight one of the things that Carol and her staff have been working on, and that's working with St. Vincent de Paul on our assistance program. As you will remember, the board wanted to allocate funds in order for St. Vincent de Paul to provide an option for customers that may have fallen on hard times and are having challenge in paying their water bills. The nice thing is our arrangement or agreement with St. Vincent de Paul is that money that we contribute is used specifically for CRW customers to pay their water bill. And we get a report on the funds that have been allocated in regard to that on a monthly basis. So for me, it's a very important opportunity for us to be able to, provide some direction or some support for those instances where people may need that help. And then last month, there was a region-wide exercise as it relates to the Cascadia Subduction Zone earthquake, so the Cascadia Rising 2016 exercise. CRW staff participated in kind of a more inwardly focused exercise. We also included, opened it up to representatives of Sunrise Water Authority, and so having an employee participate there was very helpful. In your packet, it kind of illustrates some of the things that we learned. I think some of the big takeaways is there was kind of 4 areas that we realized we needed to really work on. One was kind of the training. We needed to make sure that staff understood what their roles were. And we also came to the realization that we really need to be incorporating this as part of our day-to-day activities, the use of the ICS process so that we can get better. The whole old adage of practice makes perfect, well, you got to practice it. And so that was one of the things that was very evident. It also exposed some needs for us to update a number of our planning documents to make sure that people had access to information that would be needed in such an event or really any emergency event. We talked a lot about communications. That was one of the other items that was exposed as something that we need to work on and address. So I do hear the board's concerns as it relates to that, and we'll try to make progress in that area. And just kind of how we plan to prepare ourselves to address those situations as well. So that was kind of one of what I hope will be a number of different exercises or activities that help train staff in getting better in how we respond to emergencies. The last, or second to last item is just, you were all at the June board work session, so we have a recap of some of the topics that were covered at that work session. And then the last thing that I need some direction from the board on is, as we look ahead, staff hasn't identified any topics to bring before the board at the for our June work session. And so
July?
I'm sorry, July work session. Thank you. I'm still back in June.
It's okay.
For a July work session, and so didn't know if you wanted to cancel that or if the board had topics that they wanted us to make sure that we held the July work session for.
Well, we went over the COOP 1 year ago. We were told, promised some other things, and here we are with nothing. So, and I can tell you that the COOP didn't go so well. So, contrary to what we were led to believe. Up to this board. We don't start getting support for it, the staff is never going to get it done. So.
Well, would you consider having a special meeting? Just related to that subject matter.
Can, it's whatever you guys wanna do. They were supposed to get back to us a year later. This is the year.
So one challenge, and I realize this isn't the board's problem, but one challenge is the person I would need to help deal with that had a long-term scheduled vacation for that period. So if it's the COOP plan specifically, maybe we could pick that up.
So he forgot his commitment that he made a year ago. I understand that. Okay.
When's he return?
I don't have that off the top of my head. But it was an extended vacation.
Somebody remind me of what was supposed to be done here.
Yeah, we were supposed to get a report back 1 year later after the COOP discussion last year in July that outlined the continuing improvements of the plan.
We're talking about emergency.
We're talking about continuation of operations here, not
Continuation
ICS.
of operations plan,
Yeah.
okay. And who is the person that's on vacation?
Our emergency manager. Person
Okay.
If we knew when he was coming back, maybe we could reschedule the work session as soon as possible thereafter.
What about the August one?
Otherwise it would have to be the August meeting.
The 18th.
I think we do
August.
have an August meeting
No.
on the calendar. if we
July
want to
Yes.
use it.
18th.
Which will be
I think it's the
I
20th.
August.
think we're gonna have a special meeting so that we can.
It's August
make
23rd,
motions and
because I know it was
move
before
forward.
I was leaving town.
The next work session would be August 22nd unless we schedule a work session in between and drop the 25th. But I think, assuming he's coming back from vacation in a reasonable time, he's going to need some time to prepare, so I'm not quite sure how feasible it is to throw something in the middle of the, and we would have regular meetings scheduled for the 11th.
So the way the COOP was lined out to us was it was going to be an ongoing process, and because all he had to do was give us his updates. So it should already be in some books someplace.
Okay.
Well, I mean, since we don't know
Yeah, we
what
don't
he can
know.
do or can't do at this
Yeah.
point,
I don't know how
I
you
mean,
can have.
I'm to some degree available for a special meeting if that's the way we need to go. Otherwise, it's August 22nd.
Would there be anything else for the July meeting, since the emergency manager is on vacation for the July meeting, that we would need to discuss?
Karen was maintaining a master list
Yeah,
of
that's what I
work
thought
session
too.
issues. And
That's right.
since I was no longer secretary, I no longer have that list. So if there's something there,
And there was.
there was not. Okay.
Yeah, the only thing we had that we were starting to talk about is, we're gonna be in a position where we need to talk about new legal counsel and stuff, but we're not gonna be ready for that until probably September. I was planning on using a September work session, and that fit in well with the timing.
So I would say that we,
Until the 22nd at this point.
yeah, do the update on August 22nd, and then cancel the July work session.
Make that work.
Unless anybody else has an opinion about it. Okay.
Right.
22nd was, on
Yeah.
August was already the date for the,
The agenda meeting with the secretary and board president, and you, when is that,
yeah, well, that, I
when does that
had,
now occur? Or do you have
well,
that calendar?
it was supposed to be, it's usually the fourth Thursday, but I will not be here on the fourth Thursday, so I was hoping that we could, I'm gonna be gone Wednesday through Friday, so I could possibly meet on that Tuesday if that fits in with the staff schedule, which is,
We will make that work.
do you think Tuesday? And we have been meeting at 1, but I'm open to the time. if you'd like a different time.
Um,
If you prefer, I know you're
We're
really busy.
talking about the 26th, is that what you're talking about? Which is the Tuesday before?
You're talking about the agenda preparation.
Agenda prep
Right.
meeting,
Yeah. I think we're talking the 26th, yes.
9 AM, works best for me.
Okay, we can do that.
So we'll have Karen and Kelly coordinate with you on the schedules to get that.
So
worked out.
Tuesday, July 26th at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that,
It's normally the
voting
fourth
at that
Thursday?
time, we will discuss the permanent one that we want to do from that point on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I want a calendar in advance, so I don't conflict with any other activities.
Yeah, it's normally the fourth Thursday,
Okay.
but if.
At this point, that's not a problem.
I don't, I used to have a problem Thursday mornings, but it's no longer a problem. The class I was taking is over. So if mornings were better for people, I can do mornings.
I got Commissioner
Yes.
Soa, Larry. So the last go around, we used to get requests for agenda items.
Yes.
We haven't for, well, if you,
What?
we used to get requests for agenda items. Do you still get any input for that? No.
I haven't,
No, neither have I. So Naomi is committed to try to remedy that problem. So
Right.
I'm not sure what method you want to use to get information to her. I suggested that I can email her, but, you know, and if you want to call me, I'll email your stuff to her too. So I just wanted to offer that to you if that's something you're interested in. If something comes up that you want to have on the agenda, let me know and I will try to make sure that I know what date you guys are going to be, and then I'll send it out. So.
And Karen did send out a notice for this coming month about sending in agenda items by a certain date. So it's going to be a regular thing that we're going to be doing.
I used to do that. If Karen's going to do that, then that'll be fine. But
Just
we'll-
somebody, yeah.
We will make sure it happens.
Yes.
Karen took it on right away. She was very efficient.
Yeah.
Zoom, it happened.
She's quite good.
That concludes my report.
Oh, thank you. And we are now at, is there any other public comment? Yes. Would you like to come on?
I originally signed up not to, but I will.
Okay.
Very right there. I was not aware of the extent of this communication discussion that was held tonight. But I'm part of a ham group that works closely with Clackamas County Emergency Preparedness.
Are you Aries?
Huh?
Aries?
I'm not formally Aries, but
Okay.
I work with a group that is
Okay.
Aries. And so I would recommend strongly that my experience in 8 years of working with them is a disconnect between the emergency people in the county and the commission of the county
No.
when it comes to communication. And I recommend that as we're working through that somehow you talk to the emergency communication person who is in charge and see how he's interfacing all of the hams in the counties and the other counties and all of the other things
Nancy
as you're
Bush.
discussing this communication factor.
So just so you know, the Cascadia Rising exercise, I was paid to monitor everybody's communications. Of course, I heard nothing from our district here, nothing. Clackamas County Aries did a very good job. I mean, they were just dynamite. They did better than 90% of the people in this county being able to communicate. What people don't understand was one of the things that was required in the exercise that was a 2-year build from the federal government was the number one thing that you had to do was prove that you could communicate in your district without using the 800 trunk radio system. You could not use it. You could not use a cell phone. You could not text. You could not use a telephone. You had to provide some other means of communications. If you failed item number 1, you failed all the rest of the items. Because if you can't talk, you're done, because you lose command and control. You can't even do sit-stat. And so, you know, that's one of the things. And so please remind me to get you a copy of the study that we did, because Kent Pulowski, who was my partner in doing the radio thing, is a ham for Tiger Aries. And he did the ham part, and he's the one that published the Tri-County ham template that's out there. And One of the things that people in public safety continue to do is they think HAM's gonna be the thing that saves the day. HAM is supposed to be the backup to the backup.
That's correct.
It is not supposed to be the primary source of communication in a disaster.
4 years ago, there was a major test of that, and the only thing that worked was the ham operation.
Exactly. And again, during, especially in Washington County, the one thing that worked perfectly were the ham people. What you have to remember is these folks cannot get paid. These people are volunteers. They buy all of their own equipment. They maintain all of their hilltops. They get nothing, but they get challenged for free.
And without a way to charge the batteries, should there be an electrical outage, that will die in 24 hours.
Well, and one of the things we pointed out of the study was that all of the ham gear at the Washington County Emergency Operations Center has no power backup.
So, anyway,
And so-
I just wanted to put that
Yeah,
on the table.
so that, and I mean, ham is one of those things that we should have capabilities out here. We should become a served agency, and we're not. That's one of those things that I keep hoping our emergency manager will pick up and run. So.
Did you have a public comment?
No question or concern.
Sure.
As a former commissioner, I would be concerned that the project manager, whoever it is, if the general manager can't give the board a date, I would ask why. I mean, if he's running the district, he should know who his critical players are and when they're gonna be back and all that. I mean, not to school anybody, I heard like, I think it was July 18th that he's supposed to be back, or maybe August 18th, I heard comments going on the phones and stuff. I mean, you know.
So I'm confused. Could you try that again?
Okay. Well, I mean, as a board, you guys want to get an issue solved from a year ago.
Correct.
And you want to find out when you can set up an appointment for a work session or a special meeting, whatever. And then you ask the management when the guy's going to be back, and he can't give you an answer. That'd be pretty concerning to me.
I'm sure it'll get better as he's had more time. This is,
Well, I know, but I
this
mean-
is his first meeting.
I
so-
know, but I mean, he should know
Yeah.
his critical players, when they're gone and how long, not just an open extended time off for vacation. Somebody's got to replace him too, at the same time he's off.
Well, I don't think that we knew that the coop issue was going to be brought up as a possible discussion in July. And then when that was brought up, we found out that the emergency manager was on vacation. And so Todd didn't know that he had to have that information with him today, so.
And the emergency manager didn't tell him that that was something that he was asked to do a year ago, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
Yeah,
thank
no,
you.
I hear you, yeah.
Thank you for your concern.
Thank-
Any other public comments? Okay. I don't think we need to do anything about the commissioner reports and reimbursements. So, is there anything else? Otherwise, we're going to adjourn the meeting.
I had one question.
Yes, go ahead.
Of the other members, I have sent forward information from the Regional Water Providers Consortium, some of the reports that I've received. I just want to make sure you guys are receiving those, so you know what's going on with that organization.
Oh.
Oh, that's right, you don't use email, do you?
And to that end, like I told Naomi, if you send something to my CRW email that's important that I need to get, call me or text me or do something, because I have 5 email accounts that I'm trying to manage right now, and I do not look at it every day. So I typically go to it on Saturday morning when I'm drinking my coffee and figure out what's on it. But if there's something that's important, you know, just let me know, and I'll go boot it up when I get home and look at it. But I stare at a computer all day, and the last thing I want to do is spend more time during the week staring at a computer.
So, go ahead.
Mr. Manager, if I send another one of those reports from RWPC, would you see to it that staff deliver a copy of that to Commissioner Sugg?
Yeah, I'm aware of the communication challenges with the board and different methods that folks like to, I do have some ideas that I'll talk to Chair Andrew about as far as implementing that I think will help kind of address, try to provide a little bit more consistency where people know the time to check and
President.
what type of, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
I apologize. Old habits die hard.
We'll work on
Yep, yep.
I would prefer it was called chair, but I'll accept
I
president.
apologize. Okay. We have some ideas.
That's all.
Anything else? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for